Do you want to know how to talk to an adult child about drug use and do so in a way that doesn't push them away and is respectful but also helpful? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about breaching that difficult conversation about your adult child's drug use. In this video, we're going to talk about how to respect their boundaries as adults while still staying involved enough to be able to help them. We're going to talk about some key insights that I think will be beneficial for you opening up these conversations and what type of a tone to have in the conversation and how to maintain that tone when maybe they get offended. The first thing that we need to talk about when it comes to boundaries and you being able to help an adult child who has a drug problem is that you do need to understand your role. Who are you to that person and who do they think you are? So I actually have a whole book called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success, and I would highly recommend that you read this book. This is a good first self-government book to read if you haven't read any of my others or learned the skills of self-government yet. This one will help you get your relationship where you need it to be so that you can have these kinds of sensitive discussions. The first thing that you're going to be talking about in this book is you're going to talk about where your relationship is. You're not going to talk about drugs. That is not step number one. Step number one is, who are we? What are our roles with each other? And what does that mean our relationship needs to look like and feel like? So what type of boundaries do we have? That type of thing. Just to give you an idea, when my oldest son was 20, he was at home living for a little bit, and he did not do drugs, so this isn't a story about drugs, but it's about roles. He had been away for a couple of years, and he was home for just a little bit of time, and I thought, we need to have a conversation about roles again because he's older now and it's different. He's got younger siblings here, which I'm still raising them, but he's at a different phase of life. And so I said to him, hey, I'm still your mom, but you're an adult, but you're living at our house. What do you think my role is? He sat there for a second and thought, and he said, well, I guess to give me advice and to make sure I don't do anything stupid. And I said, yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. I mean, I can't make you not do anything stupid, but if I see you doing something stupid, I hope you would know that I love you enough that I would always say something. The people who will tell you something are the ones who really love you. And he was like, yeah, I know that, Mom. And I said, okay, well, I have something I want to tell you right now. And it didn't have to do with drugs. It had to do with a girl he was dating at the time who I didn't think was going to go well for him. And he said, I know. And he's like, yeah, I need to send that relationship down the road. And I was like, shoo, okay, that's good. But we just had the conversation, about that, about what my role was. We also talked about what his role was at the time, that he needed to listen, he needed to respect that I'm still raising other children, he needed to set a good example for them if he was going to be in my house, those types of things, so that he knew what his interactions should be like with the other people in the family. So roles are key. And that's going to really be the number one most powerful thing. If you understand who each other is, and then you understand next, how is it that we communicate about problems? How is it that I'm going to talk to you about this issue? And when am I going to talk to you about this issue? Are we going to talk about it daily? Are we going to talk about it weekly? And how is that mentor relationship going to happen related to this issue of drugs? So you're going to get into that then, okay? Now, ideally, if you can teach that adult child the 4 basic skills of self-government, which I teach in some of my other books, that would be ideal, because they need to know how to give themselves no answers and how to drop the subject about things. That's huge. And how to instruct themselves to do something else, because it's really hard to conquer an addiction unless you replace it with something else. You have to have something else that you care about more and that you'll put your time into more than that addiction. You might have to get into a little bit of CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, when you get that craving, what's the thought you get in your head before you actually follow through with it? Okay, how can we change that thought? Those types of things would be things you could help them with, you know. And you might say, there's a way where we can just change our thoughts. We can decide not to think the same thing that we've been thinking that takes us down the same road. And when we get the same feeling we've had before, now we can change the thought and do something different with it. So, you know, you can empower your child to see that they have a lot more choice than they realize they do. So I would say step number one, talk about roles, talk about what they want their relationship to be like with you. Follow the pattern in that book, Roles, that the parents do, where they have those conversations with their children about their relationships and make plans for that. And then maybe tell them, if you can, about some of those 4 basic skills, especially the ones following instructions and accepting no answers, because they're going to need those to conquer an addiction. Then talk about what types of thoughts are in their head, and how, you know, everybody has to change their thoughts about certain things, and we all have different addictions. Some are just more obvious than others. And then help them come up with a new dialogue to have inside, and help them learn how to accept that no answer using all of the steps. So there are 4 steps to that skill. All the 4 basic skills have multiple steps, but the steps to accepting a no answer or giving yourself a no answer is you look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body. You say, okay, this is the situation, or you disagree appropriately, which is what your thought process is going to do if you pick a new thought inside, and then you drop the subject, which means you don't think about it anymore. So you're going to have to teach them how to choose to drop the subject, to push it away and not talk about it. And then you want to set up a time where you regularly check up with them. And when they check up with you and they say, you know what, I've been using, or I've been doing this, or whatever, and then you say, okay, so what can we do to track it better this time? Let's talk about, who do we need to talk to? Do we need to get you into an addiction recovery program? What is it that we need to do to help you the most? And just always stay there, supportive. Don't be angry. That's important. The love has to go past. It has to surpass the addiction. It must, because they need that in order to get out of the addiction. They need you. They need to know that you accept them and love them, even though they're in that state. But don't accept the addiction. Don't accept the drugs. Just accept them for who they really are. And if you keep treating them how they really are, who you know they are in their full potential, there'll come a point when they live up to that, even if they have a long road ahead. Addiction can be a problem. There's so many addictions. Drugs is a big one that a lot of young people face, and I know that it can be hard and devastating on a family and on relationships. And sometimes it even can feel toxic and like you can't be with the person. And I know that that's troubling, but if you can maintain the relationship, all the better. They are falling into an expectation trap. I do have a full class here on this channel called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. I highly recommend going to that class next so that you can get the help you need not to fall in an expectation trap when they disappoint you, and you can accept the no answers, and so that they can also keep picking themselves up and moving forward when things seem to go off course. Click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.